When your back office is a mess, I mean, you can't keep rolling like that. Instead, it's like, oh, I need this. Oh, okay, let me go spend 30 minutes looking for it. Introducing the Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hey there, just popping in quickly. It's April Roberts, and I wanted to thank you for being a loyal listener of the Vixen Voice. It means so much to me. And because of that, we're going to be popping in these little announcements because I want you to be the first to know what's going on at the Vixen Gathering. So if you haven't done so yet, click the link below and check out the Vixen Founders Collective. The members who are already in are raving, and we would love to have you join us in the ultimate business consulting, networking, and personal growth community for Gen X female founders. See you there. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Vixen Voice. Today, we are talking about all things back office. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't worry, hang in there. Here's what I am going to tell you. If you are currently running your business, or you are setting up your business, or you're still working corporate and setting up your business, this is really critical to your sanity. So you're going to want to stay tuned in with us. I have two lovely and amazing experts joining me today, and I specifically stayed dumb so that they can educate me as they educate you. So we have Jillian Storie joining us from the beautiful Victoria, British Columbia today. She is a part-time mind reader and a part-time back-end architect, and we will get into what both of those mean. And Dianne Shelton coming to us from Minnesota, and she's the founder of Passion Breakthrough. She helps business owners build a scalable business. Did you hear that key term? Scalable business. That's why, right? We're all here to help people, but we all want to grow and make money. And so both of these ladies are going to help me dive in. You know, I just had my morning coffee with the Vixen Founders Collective this morning, and one of my clients was sharing that she just spent hours in her CRM last week getting it organized so she actually knew which clients to contact. And I said, oh my goodness, I have two amazing experts today. They could have done that for you, right? So these are all the things we're talking about today, and I know that many of you struggle with it. So Jillian and Dianne, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us.
I love it. We are all over. So we were just joking before we came on that Diane and I are in Central Time, and we just wolfed down a quick lunch to join y'all, and Jillian's 2 hours behind, so she had breakfast. So I know that there are people listening from all over the world. So whatever time or day you listen, welcome. And please don't be a stranger. We'd love to hear from you. You can communicate with us on YouTube in the comments. You can leave us reviews on Apple or Spotify, and you can always subscribe to the Vixen Voice at vixengathering.com/podcast. So for example, at the end of the day, we're going to share all the amazing gifts that these women are offering to our listeners. And if you're subscribed, they get delivered to your inbox. How cool is that? So if you haven't subscribed, go there and subscribe, and we're going to get started. So Jillian, I'm going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about your history. Have you always been a part-time mind reader and back-end architect?
Mind reader, yes. I have what I like to call like just an innate intuitive knowing of things. I get, we'll call them like premonitions of things before they happen. I predicted a car accident as a kid, and we ended up getting in one about 30 minutes later. So ever since then, I've been very cognizant of that, and it's worked out really well in my business, which is great. So I actually come from a supply chain and logistics background, working for Canadian retailers, and I was also working part-time, just trying to hustle my way through life, trying to, reach some goals faster. And I was working with somebody, and they were like, you know what, I think you would make a really phenomenal VA. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. Like, I had no idea about the online space at all. And this was literally just over 4 years ago. And so shortly after, I was like, you know what? We're going to give it a shot. Got an Instagram, made a logo, started making content, got my first client, and it has literally snowballed since then. And now I'm just the little genius mastermind behind the back end of your favorite businesses.
I love that so much. And I'm actually going to stop before we go to you, Diane. I apologize, but we do have a global audience. And so VA in the US, Canada is a virtual assistant. I know in the UK, you call it a PA, personal assistant. They can be virtual or in office. And then also we have a term executive assistant, which is someone who's not virtual, right? So Jillian, I want to ask, do you consider yourself like, I know you do more than VA work. And so I want to talk about those differences too as we go. But do you consider yourself the equivalent to an executive assistant as a virtual assistant? You're just not in the office with them? Or can you help us understand the distinctions?
So when I was a VA, I was a VA for probably about a year and a half, almost two
Okay.
years, and then I transitioned into an OBM about 2 years ago now. The difference is with the VA, it's more task delegation. It's more of I'm going to give this to you. I need you to do these things every day. I need you to, organize my inbox. I need you to get back to clients. I need you to schedule, things on my calendar and so forth. The difference between a VA and an OBM, in my opinion, is a VA is more task oriented, whereas an OBM, you get the strategy as well as the execution. So you have me or Diane or someone else come into your business and you're like, I need help. And we're like, okay, we're going to figure out where you need help. We're going to figure out the strategy around what you need. We're going to figure out the frameworks and we're going to come up with an action plan in order to close that gap for you.
All right. I love it because when I ask somebody what's going on and they tell me it's done, here it is. Those are my favorite
Uh-huh.
words.
Yeah.
Like, I love it when things are just done. Here it is. Take a look, April. Does it look good or
Yeah.
not? Love
Yeah.
it. Diane, what would you like to add to that? And then we're going to reverse engineer and have you introduce yourself. But I think Jillian made a great point about a VA versus an OBM. And tell us, so OBM is an office back manager. Is that what it stands for?
It is online business manager, which,
Okay.
like I can see it being an office too, like if it's an in-person. So it is more about, to Jillian's point, it's really about, like having the strategy piece and executing on that
Love it.
in terms of like the projects, right? Like in terms of just like, okay, like you as the CEO of your business, you have the vision. Now you hire someone like Jillian to actually execute it and kind of be your COO, which is another acronym. I feel like we're having a lot of acronyms around here today.
Yeah.
So like if you're the CEO of your business, right? Like you have a COO, which is like the chief operating officer, which then again, like it's your, think about it as your thought partner, right? Like in terms of just like, okay, bounce ideas off of your partner. And it's just like, okay, well, here's my vision, you as the CEO, and someone else do the hard work for you, right? That would be someone like Jillian come in. And we
Yep.
were talking about that in terms of just like, okay, like that's a technical side that then now you don't have to kind of get your hands wrapped around too much and those kinds of stuff. So I love the fact that, like this is the support that we're talking about for the back end that might feel like it's messy. It feels like it's the things in your closet you don't want to touch or under the
Yes.
rug that you're hiding away, but it needs to happen. So I'm glad we're talking about it.
No, I agree. And as I said, I think it's the most important thing to keep your sanity as a business owner because many of us visionaries, and there are many types of business owners. There's the visionary, there's someone that just has a great purpose they want to pursue, and they're not so much of a visionary. But, many of us that are crazy enough to start our own business, we are the visionary, right? And I know for myself, I want autopilot. I'm like in the middle of doing this. Okay, where do I grab that from? Like in the middle of this, where do I grab that from? And when your back office is a mess, I mean, you can't keep rolling like that. Instead, it's like, oh, I need this. Oh, okay, let me go spend 30 minutes looking for it, right? And I know you do a lot more than that, but, I just think it's a key critical part. So I appreciate y'all hopping in. So, Diane, let's back up and tell us how you became the founder of Passion Breakthrough and what you did before. Tell us a little bit about your history and what you do now.
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, my background is in IT. So, I've always
Love it.
enjoyed nerding out on all things tech, all things like went to computer science for my bachelor's and all these things. I thought I was going to climb the ladder, like women in STEM and all these things, but it's just so much back office work that we can talk about all things on that. But as I progress into that management field, I'm just like, okay, like there's actually women in that starting their own businesses that I feel like I felt called, honestly, in terms of just like I
I
felt
love
like
it.
I needed to take a leap of faith. So so here I am, just like, okay, like all of these wonderful people that are starting their own businesses, they have a mission. And so sometimes they just get tripped up in terms of just like how do you make sales. So I my focus for the way that I help my clients is more on the sales side of the
Mm-hmm.
systems. Because to me, like it's not a business unless your business is making sales. Because you might as well
Yes.
just volunteer or start a nonprofit, right? But nonprofits also need to make money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, I do sales automation, and also like you were talking about your client April in terms of the CRM for, and that is an acronym for client relationship management, right? So we talk about in terms of we need to make sure for your sales activities you're talking to people, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just get sucked into like social media doom scrolling, but then it's just like, like you don't know who you talked to yesterday, you don't know where that conversation is going, you get
Mm-hmm.
friend zoned. So definitely like having a structure, a process to get your leads to clients is really really
Yes.
helpful to really make sure you understand where your money is coming in from.
Yeah, and not just that, but speed to lead in today's world is incredibly important. And
Yes.
what I love about what y'all do is, especially Diane on the sales side that you're talking about, that's the part that feels icky to a lot of women I talk to. Now, I sold a firm where I was in charge of sales, so I'm like used to sales. That being said, in a whole new industry, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to figure this out. Like, this is harder than I thought. And I literally was at a mastermind I was attending, and there was a speaker about sales, and he runs a sales team for like $1 billion online company. So I mean, we're talking about, and I was like, hey, I feel like I need to brush up on my basic sales skills. Like, what do you recommend I do? Like, what's a book? And he was like, well, read my book. And he was like, he looked at me, he goes, April, you're a black belt at sales. It's just a new industry. Get over yourself. And I was like, oh yeah, I needed that. Okay, thank you. like we all have this moment, but not everyone. A lot of people are leaving corporate. They've never done sales. They're doing their business and they are the head salesperson. And at the beginning, no one's going to be a better salesperson than you are because you have the passion and the purpose. And for me, sales is just an exchange of energy, right? Like, how can I serve this person? How can I help them? So, like, I love that you step in and systematize that. And I would say, like, you icketize it. I'm going to make up a word right now because I do know so many women like I speak to feel icky about that part of their business. So, I'd love to hear Jillian and Diane, each of you, like, what do you feel you come in and help your clients the most with? Like, what are the biggest challenges that you come in and solve? Is it that ickiness about sales or is it something else?
I come in and solve more of the day to day
I
operational
like it.
stuff. I do a lot of team management. I do a lot of automation building. I do a lot of system build out. So I sort of come in and create a system and a process in a platform for something to happen. And I kind of take over everything that doesn't need to be done by you, that
Mm-hmm.
is systems, tech, operations, that sort of area of the business, which
Mm-hmm.
leaves you to usually do client deliverables, whether that's
Yep.
coaching, designing, brand strategy, SEO, digital marketing, consulting, like whatever your area is. I sort of then come in and take over just the running of the business, the day to day,
Mm-hmm.
making sure everything gets done, making sure the team, whoever is on the team, is getting stuff done, and just making sure that as we go through things and as hiccups come up, we're coming up with a process to solve those hiccups so that
Yeah.
one, they never hiccup again, and our client experience is constantly getting better.
I love that so much. And I've already, one thing I love about hosting a podcast and guesting is I learn something every episode. And I love learning. And sometimes it's just a different perspective. But, I come from a world where you had C suite, right? So I think, I've been trying to model the COO in my business. And really what I need is an online business manager, which is like slightly different. It really is a different skill set. I mean, yes, you're doing a lot of what a COO does, but I've seen people try to transition into the digital world and they struggle because I mean engagement's different, accountability is different, setting expectations are different. And I also think those three things are what a lot of female business owners I speak with are fearful of. I don't know that they know how to articulate it, but they will tell you, I don't want a team. I don't want to be responsible for people. And, what they really mean is, I don't want to hold them accountable. I don't want to set expectations. Like, I don't want to do these things. And so you come in and like systematize that and run that show. Is that correct? Like, that's what I'm hearing.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. And then what I do is I set up the foundation because so many people are like, I'm scared to do this thing. I'm scared to hire a team. I'm scared to have more than one person that I'm responsible paying for every month. And it's just because you don't have the foundation in place to feel safe. If you don't feel safe, it's the same with your nervous system. If you don't feel safe in a situation, you're going to feel it. You're going to notice it in your body. It is the same when it comes to your business. If you don't feel safe, and if you don't feel like you have the right concrete foundation under you, you're not going to be able to take that next step. It's like walking on a path and not knowing where that next like concrete block is that you're supposed to step on. Without that, how do you keep going?
Yeah. And I love that because what I do as a coach and consultant is help my clients set the goals, project plan to get to the goals, or identify like the three biggest activities they need to be doing to get there. And so you would come in and say, okay, here's your goal. Here's our major focus. Here's how we're going to do it. So you're actually, instead of them having to put all the pieces in place, like you're doing that and they're just doing their unique genius, which is like really beautiful. I love it. And then Dianne, when we switch over to you, I know we heard in detail from Jillian what she helps her clients with. So I know you tend to help your clients with sales, but kind of break down for us what you do. If I hired you tomorrow, what are you coming in to do for the Vixen Gathering?
Well, actually, I was going to say that I help my clients find the fun in their business, right? Like, because I know like systems might be scary for people. And it's just, even back in my corporate days, right? Like it's one of those days I come from like the management track too, where it's just like you feel stuffy and you feel like you have to do everything. And it's just like there's always like all of these checklists and stuff like that. But it's just like I kind of want people to not necessarily work smarter because people are smart. It's just a matter of like having your systems to do the hard work for you and not make sales feel icky. Like I'm not a salesperson, right? Like I come into the business knowing that. And so having a system, sometimes I know one of the things I work with my clients is that sometimes it feels impersonal to call your potential buyers your leads, right? And now you're just like, okay, like let's take a look at this from a heart-centered entrepreneur perspective, right? Like I work with a lot of heart-led CEOs, and it's really a matter of like, okay, like you're putting a structure in place that feels good for you, that feels fun for you. It's not boxing you in. It's actually creating a space for you to be yourself. So that's really what I want to kind of get out there to people in terms of just like, whether you work with me, with Jillian, with someone else, or do it yourself for a little bit, right? Like, but don't create a system because you got an advertisement about like a tool. Take a step back and create a strategy first. So that's really what I like to help with my clients on in terms of just like, what's your business about? Start with your why, start with how you want to help people, and then go from there and then create the system, create this structure around that. And then it's going to be fun and it's going to feel good. And then it's going to scale from there organically. And then you're going to feel good when you're, like you're building your empire from there.
I love the empire term. I love what you're saying because this just came up. So I do have consulting clients, and I was on site. A client wanted me to come in and talk to her sales team and leadership team the other week. And so, I was like trying to flow chart for them. I was like, okay, how do we go from here to here? And I'm like, your potential client slash lead, and then prospective client slash prospect, right? But I was encouraging them to do the same thing. Like, we don't have to say lead to prospect to client. It's like, how do you want to say this? But everybody has to use the same term so that you know exactly where they are in the process, right? Because there's different love and attention given at this level versus this level versus this level. And so it's important that you're all on the same page, like operating the same way, but you can call them whatever the heck you want as long as you all consistently call them that way. And I love that you're doing that, like customizing it for your clients. I naturally do that, but I never thought. I'm sure that's a lot why sales feels icky to women. Because if you think about it, most of the terms you use in traditional sales are very cold, very masculine, very like move it forward. So yeah, let's create our own language. I love that so much. Thank you. Awesome. So I'd love to hear how you work with your clients. Like, tell me how a typical engagement looks. Again, the purpose of this, by the way, I highly recommend if you love these women, reach out and hire them. But what we're really here, our purpose today is to help demystify this for you so you understand at a high level what they can do for you. And then on a day-to-day level, what that looks like so that you, again, have proper expectations going in. And, I don't think expectations, accountability, and transparency is only important with your team. It's important with anyone, third party that you hire, etc., because there can be so much miscommunication if you don't have a conversation at the beginning to make sure you're in the same page. So Jillian, we'll start with you. What does like a typical day look like? And I'm sure it's different for every client, but like, how do y'all engage? Are you DMing? Are you emailing? Like, how do you show up and serve your clients?
So a typical day would be me looking for emails. That's like the first thing I go to, see if anything came in. I like to try and aim for inbox 5. I don't go for 0 because it's just not long-term attainable, and some things I just can't deal with right away or I'm waiting on things from.
I love
So,
that.
and then what I usually use with my clients is a platform called Slack. It's a communication channel. So we all have private channels with each one of my clients. And then if I'm on Teams, we have team channels where everyone for that entire business is in that channel. We can discuss whatever's going on. I always check Slack and make sure no one has updates or if anyone needs anything. If they do, it then goes into the project management tool. Most of my clients use ClickUp, so I'm added as an admin in their ClickUp. So then I just go through and add that to make sure that gets done. And then my next step is always checking our CRM and our project management tool. So usually it's Dubsado and ClickUp. And then just making sure that I'm aware of anything that's going on and checking kind of where people are in the pipeline and the status, make sure everyone has everything that they need, see if any payments came through, see if we got any new leads, and then checking the tasks for the day. Then I go through and sort of, I guess we'll call it accomplish my tasks. So whatever I have going on that day. For example, some things that I've done today is I'm setting up a client in Go High Level. So I've been working on that for that client. On another client, I set up a bunch of her forms in Dubsado. Another client, I sent out a proposal for. We kind of made a custom proposal for this client based on what she needs. So I sent that out. I also we sort of audited our team onboarding template. So we've got a couple extra things that we have to film. So I have to film those later today. I gave the CEO the things that she needs to film that have to come from her for the brand to put in there. And I think that's everything I've done today. This is kind of a usual day. I kind of just flip back and forth. If I'm working with somebody and I need something from them, and obviously I don't ever expect anyone to get back to me immediately. If they do, it's great. But I'll kind of usually just pause, go work on something else, come back, check later. But yeah, it's just me communicating with them, giving them updates on what's going on, taking care of anything that they've asked for help with or anyone on the team. The other day I had a couple members are like, hey, I can't get into this one spot and ClickUp. And I'm like, give me 5 minutes and I'll fix it.
Love it.
So yeah, just kind of just like knocking stuff off the board every day.
I love it. So I have a question. Why are most of your clients on ClickUp? Is it because you specialize in a certain industry, or you specialize in ClickUp, or does it just happen to be that way? Because again, I'm trying to help people understand what questions to ask as they're looking for
Totally.
an online business manager.
Totally. So I do specialize in ClickUp. I am a verified
Okay.
power user. I'm on my way to getting verified as a ClickUp consultant. But a lot of my clients use it because they like it. I
Mm.
use whatever my clients use for their business. I actually had a discovery call this morning with someone, and she's like, do you come into mine? Do I come into yours? And I was like, I come into yours. I can't ask you to learn a platform that you're not ready to learn or that won't work for
Yeah,
you. That's so
I
unfair.
love it.
And I'm sure you see this all the time,
Hmm.
probably to your clients. Like, the work that you're going to do is in the one that works for you. Like, I
Yeah.
could set something up for you, but if it doesn't, it's not good for your brain, it's not good for how you work, it doesn't intuitively feel productive to you, you're not going to use it.
Hmm.
So I go into theirs, they just happen to like it. I do have clients that use Notion, I do have clients that use Trello, Asana, Monday. And I think one client is a birth doula and she's using Motion, which kind of just sorts your tasks
Huh.
into like your Google Calendar.
Oh, wow. I've never
Yeah,
heard of
so
that motion. Interesting.
yeah, it's neat. You kind of just drop your tasks in and then prioritize them like in order of priority. And then it slots them in based on time needed to complete them into your Google Calendar.
Oh, super cool. Yeah, I have tons
Hmm.
of clients because I get all my clients on the Google Calendar if they don't have one. It just
Hmm.
seems to be the easiest to maneuver to me. And because I really go into like leveraging time and time management pretty
Yes.
deeply with them because that's where most business owners win. And I build in energy and confidence management because, yeah, you might have this task. And, the thing about this is they might optimize like where you have time, but what if it's something you really hate? Are you going to do that right before you get on with a new client or a sales call? No, that's not good for your energy or confidence, right? So we want to we want to know ourselves, be honest about ourselves. Like I love how you say if you don't like it, it's not going to work for you, right? Like
No.
I totally get that. Like my brain works in a certain way, and if I hate it, I'm never going into the CRM. If it works for me, the CRM is the best tool I have, right? So I love that you're so open to that because we did get into a period, I think we're coming out of it, where everything became so commoditized. Like, oh, I have this pre made system that I'm going to put you in and you're going to like it. And, we have to like all honor our differences and what works for us and how we work. And so I really love that you customize that for your clients. And again, if you're listening and you're looking to hire someone to help you, ask what they're certified in. Okay, this is what we use. Are you comfortable with this? If not, like how quickly do you learn? Really get a feel for that rub because remember, and often people want the job, so they're going to say, yes, I can do it, and really dig in and say, okay, well, do you have experience in this? Tell me about it. Or how would you learn? Like, how fast would the up ramp be? And you can even build these things in to your scope of work at the beginning, like an understanding. So, again, this is lessons learned painfully for many failed relationships with vendors when I was like, oh, I like you, let's go. And then I'm like, oh, hold on, you
Yeah.
do it that way? Well, I didn't want it that way. Whoops. So, speaking from the other side, I think it's incredibly important to get the right match for both parties because obviously you want a sustainable long term relationship because these are problems to be solved in your business. And hey, look, if you're in a first year and figuring it out, don't beat yourself up if you have to change, right? Even if you're in a third year and you just grew massively, like it happens. So I'm not saying that just because you have to change, it means you made a mistake. Just you'll get better over time asking the right questions. What we're trying to do today is help you shorten that learning curve in any way we can. So, Dianne, I'd love you to dive in. What does a typical day look like, and how do you interact with your clients?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I love the way that you said that in terms of like if you're just starting out, that
Mm-hmm.
journey might look different than someone that might be, like in their third year and redoing things. But I'm with Jillian in terms of just like it's customized for your business, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so one of my client, like some of my clients, like they come to me and sometimes it's just a half day VIP session and it's just like, okay, like here's
Oh,
the
I love it.
strategy and they're such go-getters and it's just just like, okay, here, let me just give you so that we can shorten the time that you don't have to try to figure it out yourself. Like, here is what's actually gonna move the needle forward. And sometimes it's going to be like, okay, well, here's the strategy, but now it feels a little intimidating. Let's actually just have me do it for you, right? So some of my clients, like, they have websites or they have social media, but it's not converting to sales. So we take a step back to be like, okay, like, what's really broken? Sometimes they have emails and yet they haven't sent emails in a while because they feel intimidated, or they do send out emails, but it's not converting to sales again, right? Like, because they're not either they're promoting all the time in their emails, they're not nurturing them in terms of like building a relationship with them. So it's really a matter of, for me, it's understanding the business first, and then creating a plan, like a solid plan in terms of like this sales generating plan. So from there, it's just like me diving deep in terms of just like, okay, like, do I need to set up the sales funnel for people? And so I create a structure, simple. I call it the sale. I love acronyms, so I call it the simple automated sales system, because without the simple, what does the acronym stand for, right? So it's just
Love that.
so we definitely want the simple part in your systems. So that's why I just want people to have that in their business, and setting that up for them, and so that it feels good, so that they can scale and have more time to do whatever they want to do in their life.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So I had my financial firm for 15 years and we had the same CRM system the entire time, which, near the end, I was like, oh, should we go to Salesforce? And it was always kind of like, is it worth the effort? Like a pro con. But like, in the financial world, you basically had ours, one other, and Salesforce. It was like the three tiers. And then I come into this industry and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's whole many CRMs. And like, I know how important it is to get the right one because I've run a business off of it. And honestly, we went through 4 in the last year and a half because somebody would be like, oh, this is the best one, you should try it. And then like, somebody would be like, why are you doing this? And so I'm like, oh my gosh, if I only understood about an online business manager when I first started, like maybe we wouldn't have gone through, that pain. Now we have a system that works for us that's a tech stack because I did bring someone in to help us, and that was really beautiful. So I mean, I just like to share my pain stories to say you're not alone if you're out there. Like, I thought the CRM was going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and you get in and it gives you a headache, and it's like, whoa, this is way too complicated. So it's funny because our website, I kept on the first one because I started with Kajabi when I didn't have a team because it was easy enough for me to understand and do. And like, our website's still there, and I'm like, but Kajabi doesn't have a great CRM system, so I was always searching for that piece. And so it's interesting. So now we're moving to WordPress because we have everything set. But it is interesting, and I just say that to say what you ladies do is super valuable, because it really, getting the right match to help you really can cut through a lot of this pain of you trying things yourself, which takes your focus off what you're really good at and what you really want to do. So I'm so excited about this episode because I just think hopefully there are listeners out there like me that didn't even know that an online business manager existed, and maybe they're going through that pain, and now they can be like, oh, there is a solution. Like, maybe I can hire someone tomorrow, or maybe I'm not quite there, but there's light at the end of the tunnel, and this is an option for me. So I really appreciate that. So I'd love to dig into your personal journeys. I know you both had previous careers, and Jillian, as you said, someone suggested to be a VA, and you did that for a year and a half and then made the hop, and it snowballed. And Dianne, you chose to leave the IT industry. Of course, you still do IT, but the industry. So what I like to ask is, where do you find the most joy being an entrepreneur versus your past life? Or like, what surprised you, and what is extremely joyful that you love about being an entrepreneur?
I find the most joy in my clients, like having not even knowing they have a problem, but me being like, hey, I see you're doing this. Like, obviously no judgment, just curious, like, what your intentions are, what, like, your thought process is behind this. Because from my perspective, like, we could do this and this. And they're like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know you could do that. And I'm like, oh, okay. Give me like an hour. I'm going to come up with like a whole thing. I'll be back. And then I present this like, hey, like we could do this will work this way, this will do this, and then this happens. And they're just like, what? Like, that's my favorite part, is like finding things that like they didn't even know were possible, or like they didn't know they could see. Like one of my clients, I built out a financial dashboard in ClickUp, and she's like, my husband and I, who she started her business with, have wanted to see this data for 5 years. And she's so incredibly smart. She's like, I just couldn't figure out how to build it. She's like, and you built it in a matter of hours. And I was like, I just nerd out on stuff. It honestly, that I just get, like what I was saying earlier, I got these intuitive ideas, and I'm just like, oh, I could build this. And I'm like, what about this? And then I'm kind of just like, they usually give me free rein. They're like, I trust everything you've ever done, so just build. It just makes me so happy, because I'm like, I'm fulfilling things you didn't even know you wanted, and now you have seeing something or not having to do something, and it's just so instrumental to having them having more joy.
Yeah, because I mean, I personally love a good dashboard, and we're working on ours now because when I implement, I mean, I had my financial practice for 15 years, and I think I got a dashboard, I want to say like 7, 8, 9 years into it, and it changed running the business because we were really exploding at that point. And, you know, I mean, because we would do it down to like, you know, the sales process, and then I could look at it and I could tell, oh, this advisor is struggling at the beginning, this advisor is struggling at the end. So I have to work with this one on rapport building, and I have to work with this one on closing, right? And so then I could go do my job. And then same thing with client service. Like, okay, how quickly are we taking care of our clients? Because again, speed to service is incredibly important. And so when you have that information, and then you're not wasting everyone's time teaching everyone how to build rapport when they don't need it, right? You're able to focus on really coaching up your team where they need it most. And so they were super appreciative. So I know you're talking more financial data, but I'm sure you build dashboards for your sales system, for your SaaS systems. And so, I mean, they're just incredibly important. You have to see, I was sharing with that sales team last week, I was like, imagine you have an assembly line. Like, where's the assembly line getting stuck, or where is it broken? And like, that's where your attention should go. Oh, okay, we're not calling people back fast enough, so let's focus our attention on this part, because you're serving your clients better and you get more sales. So it's a win-win. So, Dianne, I'd love to hear from you. What is the biggest joy you found with your business and entrepreneurship?
Another great question, by the way, because I've been doing this, IT and my own business for about 14 years. And
Love
I
it.
feel like both the joy and the difference is really, I get to be my own boss, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I get to decide who I want to work with and not work with. So it's the gift and the curse. Because again, like as the CEOs of our business, we're just like, we're in charge. So again, like even we're talking about hiring, right? Like,
Yeah.
or finding the right system. You can listen to all of these like different systems we're talking about today, but at the end of the day, it's your decision. And that's the beauty of it all. Like no one can tell you and force you to do one thing or the other, but at the same time, like the whole business revolves around that. But that's the beauty of it. We get to learn, we get to evolve over time.
Yeah.
And again, like we get to partner up with other amazing individuals around us that can help shorten that time span in terms of our learning curve, and then go out there again, the scalability of it all, and kind of just like tap into each other's zone of genius so you can focus on your own.
Love that so much. So, Dianne, I'm going to flip that and we'll start with you and then go to Jillian. What have you found to be the most challenging aspect of owning your business? You can either talk about historically along the way or where you feel challenged now.
But yeah, that again, another great question. So for me, it was the quickness in terms of making a decision, and it's related, right, to what I just shared, because we make mistakes along the quote unquote lessons, mistakes, and these kinds of
Mm-hmm.
stuff, right? Like again, like it's just life in general. Like making a call that you had a different vision for, And so, for example, like I feel so embarrassed to admit this, that the very first coaching container that I participated in, I got sucked into it, right? Like in terms of like, I didn't realize it was an automated webinar. Like I see all these chats in the comments and I'm just like, everyone's buying. I got this FOMO going. I'm just like, I better sign up now. So it's just like, again, like forgiving myself, giving myself grace, learning from it. It's just like, oh, I didn't even know this was a thing. And then learning from that, taking what I can in terms of just like, okay, giving myself permission that this was not the best thing that I, like signed up for. I got what I needed. I made great friends. I made my money back because I put in the work and implemented it. But at the end of the day, it wasn't just, like it was too bro marketing. So,
yeah,
and so
I
it's
made
just like,
that mistake.
Okay, like yeah, so now it's just like I need to just focus in my lane, and then what's the next step? And so get back up, keep taking chances. So that's really what I want to kind of get back out there for.
No, I love it because I like to call it, I got this from my grandfather. I call it tuition because one, you pay for it either with your time or your money, right? So it's just tuition. We're paying our tuition along the way, right? So that's why I always joke. I'm like, as a coach or consultant, that's why I'm very real with our struggles because I'm like, as a coach or consultant, my job is to compress your tuition. Like you get to learn from my tuition, right? That's basically what you're paying from 16 years with the other business and then a year and a half, like, getting this one working. So I think it's so important. So thank you for sharing. And you shouldn't be embarrassed because we all do it. But I love the vulnerability. Thank you for sharing that. And Jillian, how about you? What have you found to be like the greatest challenge?
My greatest challenge is probably finding the balance between working and having a personal life. I love what I do. And I go through seasons where I hustle harder or I'm in a push season rather than when I'm in a chill season or like in like my soft season. It's something that I have had and am still learning how to navigate, but the balance between like wanting to work more, wanting to take on more clients, wanting to, grow my own team, wanting to grow my clients' teams, wanting to do all these things, and also balancing out the time away from the business in order for me to be able to show up as my best self, because if I'm your right hand, how helpful am I if I'm not taking care of myself? Like if I'm not going to the gym every day, if I'm not, taking care of my mental health, if I'm not, getting outside and getting some sunlight and some fresh air, I definitely am an overworker. So that is my cross to bear in this lifetime, is to find the balance in running a very successful business and incredibly successful clients and still having a very flowy, like balanced personal life at the same time.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to what you want, and that's the challenge because everyone has an idea. I get right now I'm in a hustle season because self-chosen because in August I spent 15 days in healing training because I do spiritual healing on the side and I chose to do that. So I knew the other 15 days were hustle for Vixen, getting the podcast done, etc. Right? But 15 days of healing, like what could freaking be better? But people don't understand. They're just like, you're never home. Like you've been home 7 days this month. I'm like, yeah, but I'm okay. But, even that said, you do have to find the balance because even though I'm, basically for 15 days meditating, getting healed, praying and being healed, which is amazing, still Labor Day weekend, I felt it. I was like, ooh, I need this weekend. Like I need to just be for some time. Right. And had you asked me the week before, I would have told you, oh, I'm fine. Everything's great. It's almost like we don't realize we're quite to that point. Right. So like really knowing yourself and almost forcing yourself to have those rest and recharge days, even when you think you're fine and great and wonderful, I feel is really important. I always encourage my clients to build in crash time. So I have crash time built in Sunday because I'm hustling again because I want to go to Europe in the month of October. So most of mine is self-chosen. Yeah. So I'll be working from there, but I just don't feel comfortable having to record from there because you can't count on internet when you're traveling. And I don't want to carry equipment around with me. So we are busting it to get all our episodes done. All right, ladies. So at the Vixen Gathering, one thing I really focus on and why I only wanted to work with women was look, everyone on earth, I don't care what your gender is, I don't care what your sex is, we have masculine and feminine energy, right? You can call it yin and yang. And it's so important to have them balanced. And the challenge is in the Western world, it's very focused on the masculine energy, like GSD, get stuff done, like linear thinking, analytical. You came from the IT world, you came from the corporate background, right? I think you were IT as well, Jillian. Am I correct?
Supply chain. So
Supply chain,
very
yes.
similar. Yeah.
Very linear thinking. I was a lawyer, financial advisor, and I just saw this phenomenon as got 40, I'm now 48, like wow, all these great women are leaving the industry. And I think it's because they burn out because we always have to be a masculine instead of being balanced, right? And so I'm a huge proponent about welcoming our feminine back in. So I'd love to ask you both, when do you, and I love the answers I get to this because they're all over the place, but when do you feel your feminine energy flowing the most? Jillian, you use the term flow, and that's really your feminine energy, right? But when do you feel most in your feminine energy? What are you doing?
I'm usually not working, and I'm sure you can understand. It's very masculine. It's
I
very
could tell.
task focused. It's very much like I'm in that energy all day. So I
Yeah.
take little dance breaks. I'll go put
Ooh,
on my
love
favorite
it.
song and I'll take 5 seconds or 5 minutes even and just go dance in my kitchen. If I'm walking, Pilates is a really good one for me. Sauna's a huge one. Stuff like
Mm.
that. The very like restorative, very just like relaxed. Reading, if I like romanticize my evening, I'll light a candle, get a comfy blanket, sit on the couch, read my book, and just like really just like kind of like not shut off, but bring everything down a couple layers and kind of just like what like, and then I ask myself like what do I need, what do I want, what am I craving,
Mm-hmm.
food, activity, connect, like what is it that I'm desiring, and I'm like okay, that's what we're gonna do. And it's such a practice to get into, but I
Mm-hmm.
find it so beneficial doing what we do because you're so go go go, you're so structured, you're so like project and task oriented, to come out of that and be like okay, there's nothing that I have to do. If I could do anything, what would I want to do? And honoring that is such a switch, such a switch.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I'm just going to throw in because I want to get to Diane. I know we're close on time. That movement is very good for the feminine energy, like dance, a lot of the things you mentioned. We tend to do well with that. So, Diane, how about you? When do you feel most in your feminine energy?
I'm a Libra, so I feel like I'm like in that balance. So I don't know if it's weird. I really enjoy the funnels.
Yeah.
Like I'm just like in my flow in terms of just like okay, like that I guess like that's just a way that my brain is wired. But I do a lot nowadays, like again, like back in like my IT management days, I didn't do a lot of these things. But now that I've given myself space and time, like I journal, I do the meditation first thing in the morning. So my first hour is usually spent on myself in terms of just like, okay, what's my affirmations? What's my intentions for the day? And then just kind of following that at the back end of my days in terms of just like giving myself for meditation. I do like the new moon and the full moon, just kind of like revisiting. In IT, we have like 2 week sprints, which is like in the agile world and stuff like that. So I just consider those my agile sprint of like the 2 week iterations for from the feminine side, balancing it out with the masculine again. And
Mm-hmm.
I take the last week of every month off. So I do a CEO.
Like
Some
it.
people do CEO days. I take a CEO week to just kind of again like work on my business, give myself space. Like last week, I did. I ended my week at the spa. So I went to Chicago to just kind of enjoy some time. Like there's this. I'm Filipino, but I went to
Yeah.
a Korean spa. So there's like rooms full of gold. There's like rooms full of
I
like
love
just
it.
amethyst and all those things to just kind of reminding myself that abundance is all around us. And sometimes you
Yeah.
just have to be still and you don't have to do anything. And just like as women, we're wired to receive, right? Like our bodies
Yes,
are
it's
are
true.
meant to receive. And so that's just kind of like, you don't even have to do anything. You just have to be present and just tap into that. And that's, I think, what I like to do is just kind of hone in that and anchor it.
I love it because I'm moving toward a 3-week work schedule too. In fact, even like my coaching on week 4, I bring another expert in. So like they're doing the coaching in week 4, and same thing. Like I might show up sometimes, but just like be a participant and not be the person on. So I love that. And I did that. We had the long weekend, Jillian, here in the US last weekend, and I had a staycation with my best friend, like a new luxury hotel in Houston I was visiting. And we did the spa, the pool, and then went to the fancy restaurant next door. And I was like, I forget that I like a little luxury sometimes. Like I've gotten way too grounded. Like it's okay to like treat myself sometimes. Like this is kind of fun. So I love that. Thank you both for sharing. So we are going to wrap up. I do want to know first, what color is your feminine energy? If you put a color to it, what would it be?
Like rose gold.
Nice.
Mine, I did a meditation. Mine evolves. Like sometimes it's fiery, like it's like fire. So sometimes it's like orangey, sometimes it's like bluish. So it depends. Like it's just like flowy. But it's fire. It's fire color.
I love it. That's beautiful. All right, ladies. Well, I know our time is up, but you both have amazing offers for our listeners. So would you mind sharing? And I'll remind everyone that it's going to be in our show notes. So again, if you have not subscribed, subscribe so they get delivered to your inbox, and you can communicate with us in the YouTube comments. Leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. Tell these ladies how amazing they are and how much you loved it. And of course, all of their pertinent contact information will be included as well. But if we'll each, Dianne, we'll start with you, if you'll share what you have for our listeners and also the best way for them to follow you if they're eager right now.
Yes, thank you. So you can follow me on Instagram at Passion Breakthrough. That's my social media handle everywhere. And my free gifts and my offers and all that stuff you can find on passionbreakthrough.com/free gifts for you. So that is something, and I know April is going to put that in the show notes as well, but I just want to make sure that you can see everything all on one page to make it easy and simple for you to get the support you need.
I love it. Thank you. And Jillian?
So I actually have a 20% off discount code available on all of my services. You will need to DM me in order to get it sent to you. But you can always go follow me on Instagram at TheIntuitiveOBM and DM me and let me know what you're ready for. All of my offers are available on my website, and to sort of start that process, you would just go through and book a call and answer a couple questions. And yeah, then we could discuss exactly what you're looking for. And yeah, I can activate the code for you.
Awesome. I love that so much. All right, everyone. Just as I always say, the world needs a little more love. So I hope we showed you love today and helped you solve a burning issue in your business. And please reach out and follow each of these ladies. You are both now vixens, so I hope you're okay with that. So these amazing vixens here with us. And remember, I loved both Jillian and Dianne's suggestions of how they take care of themselves. So I'm going to challenge you to up-level the way that you love yourself. What's something you can do today to take care of yourself, to rest, restore, and receive? Love you all. We will talk to you soon. And thank you, Jillian and Dianne. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you want access to today's show notes, including links to all the resources we mentioned, visit vixengathering.com/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of The Vixen Voice.